Hello, I hope you're having a beautiful day. I just got word from my editor. He was putting together the footage for this video and he was like, "Hey, you're missing your usual energy." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I was sick. I literally dragged myself out of bed to film that and then went right back to bed. And that's all I did the entire day is stay in bed." And he's like, "You need to explain yourself." Just kidding. He didn't say it like that. But this is my explanation. So if I seem a little lower energy in this video, that's why. But still didn't want to miss a day because I love you. So thanks. Bye.
Spiritual awakening. What is it? What the heck is it? We spent a lot of time trying to define that word early on with this channel, and it's really a tricky thing to pin down because language. And the metaphor I have come up with to describe this problem goes like this. Say there are two people. Granny Smith, who has only ever eaten green apples, and Juan Thomas, who has only ever eaten Panda Express. We'll call him Juan Tom. One day, these two people come together to discuss what it is they eat. Juan Tom has never had a green apple, and so he asks Granny Smith, he's like, "What do apples taste like?" And Granny hems, and she haws. And finally she says, "Well, they're a little bit sweet and a little bit sour." Juan Tom now thinks green apples taste like orange chicken. And my point with that is that when I say God or I say spiritual awakening, it may mean something much different to you than it does to me, because we each perceive things through the unique lens of our own experience. And so in religious studies, this is something called internal diversity, where we could be from the same faith. We may attend the same church. We could sit right by each other in the same pew, read from the same holy book and the same line of scripture, and we may have completely different interpretations of that sentence. And that's because language is so imprecise when we can't point to something and grunt and be like, rock, sky, bad bitch. And so when we try to talk about things that can't be seen or are difficult to understand, language is inadequate. For example, some of the things that you may have heard me say before are, "We are one consciousness manifesting as infinite possibilities," or "Humans are just finger puppets for source energy." And I say it that way. I speak in the language of a weirdo because that's what works for me. But the idea behind those words is not new. They have been expressed 1,000,001 different ways by 1,000,001 different people. Behold, but the one in all things, it is the second that leads you astray, said Kabir. In those respects in which the soul is unlike God, it is also unlike itself, said Saint Bernard. When the 10,000 things are viewed in their oneness, we return to the origin and remain what we have always been, said Sen Tsang. The beloved is all in all, the lover merely veils him. The beloved is all that lives, the lover merely a dead thing, said Rumi. I live, yet not I, but Christ in me. And here's the thing, even though all of that was spoken in English, and it's all getting at the same fundamental idea, that idea is expressed in such vastly different ways, even in the English translations, right? They are all colored by the respective language and symbols of its people. Now, those of us who have had the mystical experience, those of us who have had the direct experience of that thing, we understand these quotes. Those of us who haven't had that experience yet, we look to the writings and teachings of people who have and think that we understand the words. But the words are not the thing. And history has shown us to be that's the case, which is why we just kill each other. It's the reason for the entire bloody history of our species. Yay, humans. Good job, humans. I'm going to give you a seal clap. The Asian dude in the corner is rambling about this nameless thing that he named the Tao. And then you've got the potentially bisexual Sufi mystic calling everything beloved. And then we have the Bible-thumping Christians clubbing us all over the head with, Bible. Solution. Murder. It is so ironic. Beyond ironic, it is meta-ironic. It's almost funny. It's so ironic that it's almost funny. You know, it is funny. I shall laugh. Ha ha ha! Because look, you gotta hand it to the great teachers. Like, they really tried. They really did. They told us things like, love thy neighbor as they love thyself. And we were like, we got this. We're gonna commit genocide. We're gonna start holy wars. We're going to enslave people who don't look like us and destroy their ways of life. We'll provide havens for pedophiles in your name, Sky Daddy, in your name. It's like the worst game of telephone.
Love everyone, my children.
Did he say destroy everything? No. I think he said self-destruct because like we're connected to everything. So if we destroy everything, we destroy ourselves. Oh, let's do it! And this is why awakening is so critical, because even though a spiritual awakening is difficult to define, what we can say about it is that it culminates in a direct experience, a direct understanding of what it is those quotes are all trying to get at. The direct experience of one consciousness manifesting as infinite possibilities. And a spiritual awakening is a real, potentially biological thing. There may actually be markers in the body for this, idea sex for another time. But in any case, it's interesting to note that this concept of awakening has existed on either side of the Atlantic in cultures throughout history. It was known to the Bushmen of northwestern Botswana. It's all over ancient Egypt. It's in the Bible, and it was known to all of the mystery schools and the mystics. Now, one of the driving ideas behind this channel is that we can get closer to truth with a capital T when we engage in idea sex, right? This intercourse of ideas between different cultures, thinkers, and disciplines. Because when you have a lot of people who come from diverse walks of life, and they all somehow come to similar conclusions, that tells us something. Where there's overlap, there's truth. So if this is true, and where a single idea exists in multiple places, and that lends it more credibility, then it may very well be the case that all human beings have within them an imminent and biological, or at least psychospiritual mechanism that is responsible for spiritual evolution and all expansion of consciousness. This phenomenon is most commonly known as Kundalini, which is a Sanskrit term. It comes from India, but the phenomenon itself has actually existed all over the world. It's definitely not limited to Indian teachings. It's everywhere, and in fact, some modern scientists are trying to figure out ways to apply the scientific method to studying this thing. They believe that it is a biological mechanism, something that actually changes our physiology, and that there may be markers within our body that would indicate when someone is having one of these experiences. But that is idea sex for another time. Today, what I want to end on is why any of this is important. Frankly, religion has failed to impart to us what it has been trying to impart to us. And the only way to understand that thing, right? Call it source, God, source energy, spirit, the field, universal consciousness, whatever. People call it all kinds of different things. The only way to understand that thing is I don't think anyone ever fully understands it, but the only way to really start to grasp it is to have the direct experience of that thing. Now, throughout a spiritual awakening, as people move closer to having the direct experience of that thing, our consciousness changes, sometimes drastically. And a lot of this involves healing. I've made videos on that before that you can check out there if you're so interested. But it's interesting to note that people, once they start walking this path, once they start tumbling down the rabbit hole, is they become less destructive both to themselves and the people around them. And what's also interesting is that the experience is available to anyone who is willing to tumble down the rabbit hole of awakening. A lot of people will actively pursue awakening, right? They take up yoga or they take up meditation. They use different spiritual tools and techniques to try to get them to have this experience or on the path toward that ultimate, that pinnacle mystical experience. And then it can also happen spontaneously. So some of us are just like clubbed over the head and dragged by our hair, kicking and screaming and not believing. I'm speaking from experience. I did not believe in any of shit. Okay, I did not believe in any of it until I started to experience what it was like to wake up. And then imagine, to my surprise, when I started reading everything I could get my hands on, imagine my surprise upon finding out that it has been prophesized on either side of the Atlantic that humankind would experience a collective shift in consciousness. And a long time ago, I found a search trend that I felt was testament to this. I'll insert an image here. There is this theme across many of these stories and prophecies that the golden age of humanity and brotherly love would be preceded by everything going to shit. Okay, everything falling apart. Kind of apocalyptic, if you will. But the word apocalypse, it's interesting to note, the word apocalypse comes from a Greek word meaning an unveiling. And that's what an awakening is. It is this unraveling of everything we think we are and everything we think we know in order to get closer to truth with a capital T. And I'm just going to say it straight. We're living through this prophesized time, right? If we use the biblical version, we've got pestilence, war, famine, and death. We're currently 2 for 4. Thanks, Putin. Let's be real. Politicians want this war. People don't want this war. It's all staged because of the New World Order. All the old systems are on their way out right now, making way for the new. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Our financial systems are built on debt. Our politics are built on division. Our economy is built on war. Our media is built on lies. Our for-profit healthcare system is built on keeping people sick. And our for-profit prison systems are built on keeping poor minorities incarcerated. Nothing we are doing is sustainable, and all of that is being unveiled. A lot of people are still asleep to it because it's terrifying. But the more chaotic and absurd world events get, I think the more people are not going to be able to ignore these things. And I think I said this in like the second video that I ever posted here, which is that the world is going to go one of 2 ways. We're either going to spiral off into some post-apocalyptic totalitarian state where all power is centralized and we're living in this globalist society where you shall own nothing and be happy, or we're going to get the golden age that our ancestors promised us, that land of milk and honey. And my best guess is that whether we go this way or that way is going to depend on how many people wake up. Can we reach critical mass? But before we have room to build the new, we have to get rid of the old. It's like a controlled burn, okay? And since you and I have incarnated on Earth at this time, we got front row seats to the show, bitch. Buckle up. We will be talking about all this and more in future videos, so if you haven't subscribed, do subscribe and join the guild. Thank you for tumbling down the rabbit hole with me today. Hail to the power and the sight, and until next time, I hope you stay very, very blessed, my friends.